footed, and it's a wonderful penalty scored. He hits the crossbar! MLS Cup dreams have come true in Sporting Blue! The crowd go wild. They haven't seen a moment like this in these past few years. Now they can celebrate. Now they can start to believe. Kansas City has a league champion for the first time in 13 years. Final score here. Sporting KC 1, RSL 1. Sporting KC win MLS Cup on penalties. Celebrations will go long into the night here. Sporting Kansas City are MLS Cup champions.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this special meeting of the Kansas City, Kansas Downtown Rotary Club. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty. Justice for all. Please remain standing for the invocation to be offered by the Reverend Jimmy Banks of the Strangers Rest Baptist Church. Reverend Banks.
Let us pray. O Lord, our help in ages past, our help for years to come, a shelter from the stormy blast in our eternal home. Lord, we thank and praise you for blessing your humble servants to be citizens of this great nation, this great city, this great county. We thank you for the liberty and freedoms we enjoy, even to gather in this place on this day to fellowship and work toward unity and community. We thank you for the institution of self-government, which you ordained, and for the sacrificial and salaried work of those who set apart for leadership through service. May they be ever mindful that you are holding them accountable for how they perform their duties and treat your people. Lord, create clean hearts and right minds within us that enable us to eliminate the isms and other barriers that seek to divide and corrupt us. Strengthen us in our efforts to work together, support each other, and work diligently to make things on earth as they are in heaven. Bless the leadership, the plans for progress, the efforts generated toward building a strong, vibrant, prosperous city. Now bless the food that has already been consumed, the fun and the fellowship, that we be physically fed and spiritually energized to do your work, your will, your way. It is in the precious and powerful name of Jesus we pray and give thanks. And all the people said, amen.
Thank you, Reverend Banks. Once again, my personal welcome. I'm George Moody, president of the Downtown Kansas City, Kansas Rotary Club, and we're certainly glad to see you here today. Before we introduce our guest speaker, then I'd like to say a few words about Rotary. Rotary was organized in the city of Chicago in 1905 and has since grown to some 34,000 Rotary clubs around the world in some 200 countries. Our club, Club number 195, was chartered in 1916. In a couple of years, we'll be celebrating our 100th anniversary. Now, Rotary is a service organization, as evidenced by our motto, Service Above Self. We are currently involved in our flagship project, which amounts to our contribution to Rotary International. Now, that project includes the worldwide effort to eradicate polio. Polio, according to the 1912 count, was some 99% eradicated throughout the world. There are 2 countries where polio is still endemic, and we are still active in those countries. Locally, the Kansas City, Kansas Downtown Club provides scholarships for graduating seniors among our projects, dictionaries for all students in USD 500, and many other humanitarian projects in and around the city. You will see our Rotary members out ringing bells for the Salvation Army, collecting food, and distributing food for the hungry and other humanitarian projects. Our club is comprised of business and civic professionals. Those who are present and who might want to seek membership in Rotary, then, of course, you might go to what we consider our website, rotary.org. And also, seated among you are numerous Rotarians. They'll be wearing this badge, such as the one that I have on. As a matter of fact, I'd like to ask those Rotarians if you would stand for just a moment, and those who are interested to contact any of these Rotarians and share your interest with them, and certainly you will get additional information. Thank you very much. Now I'd turn the podium over to Mr. Patrick Crilly, who will introduce our guest speaker.
Thank you, President George. It's my honor today to introduce the Mayor CEO. Our speaker today is a lifelong Wyandotte Countyan and is pastor of Trinity Community Church in Kansas City, Kansas. He was elected to the UG Board of Commissioners twice and then to the position of CEO Mayor. He's accompanied by his wife, Julie Solomon, today, and they have 4 children, Daniel, Gabriel, Luke, and Esther. Mark has many fine attributes, and one is that he became a member of this Kansas City, Kansas Rotary Club in 1999. Our club has knowledge and has known Mark since then, and he is a thoughtful, humorous, and enthusiastic leader. And an example of his contribution to our club was when Mark was asked to lead our club for our annual Kansas City, Kansas Day newspaper sale for the benefit of Rotary youth. It takes a dedicated leader to have our club members sell newspapers for charity on street corners on an early, cold April morning as a community project. Mark did it with good humor and good results for our club. Our club knew that Mark would be a dedicated leader as a representative on our local government. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mayor CEO Mark Holland.
Thank you very much. I always encourage people to clap ahead of time because it could go straight downhill after that. I want to thank Mr. Crilly for that introduction. And I want to thank the Rotary Club. It's been an honor to be a member of this Rotary Club, as you mentioned, since 1999 when I first came to Trinity. And I had never aspired to be a member of the Rotary Club. But I was told by Bill Porter that every pastor at Trinity had always been a member of the Rotary Club. And it has been my delight ever since. I can tell you, if you're not involved in a civic organization of some kind in your community, the opportunity to make both the personal and professional contacts is unparalleled. And I would encourage any of you to consider that today as you're sitting at the table. But I want to thank the Rotary Club. You have hosted this for many years, and I very much appreciate your hosting it today. I want to welcome several people. I want to welcome Mayor Tiny McTaggart and Mayor Jeff Harrington, Edwardsville and Bonner Springs over here. Thank you very much for being here. I want to welcome a representative from Congressman Yoder's office, Ethan Patterson, and Senator Moran's office, Cindy Green. Thank you all for being here. I also want to welcome U.S. District Attorney Barry Grissom for being here. Thank you. I also want to thank my fellow members of the Board of Commission for being here today. I want to thank, I'm going to read it so I don't foul this up. I want to thank Gail Townsend and Brian McKiernan, Ann Murgia, Angela Markley, Jim Walters, and Jane Philbrook. Thank you all for being here today. And you want to stand up so they can see you. Stand up. So I know Hal Walker was planning to be here, and his wife had urgent surgery today, so we want to keep them in our thoughts and prayers. I also want to thank our public safety partners, Sheriff Don Ash and the Sheriff's team. Thank you for being here. Can you stand? We can welcome you. Chief John Paul Jones in the Fire Department. Thank you for being here. And Chief Ellen Hansen of our Police Department. Thank you for being here. I want to welcome the Board of Public Utilities members. If you're with the Board of Public Utilities elected officials, would you please stand? Thank you. If you're representative of one of our school districts, either public or private, would the school districts please stand? There we are. Thank you. Also, our community college is here today. If the community college representatives would please stand. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Also, I want to thank, after my election, we had a great team for the campaign. And coming out of the campaign, trying to articulate those campaign goals into a practice, there were a number of people in the community that we reached out to be a part of the transition team, to help take that movement from the campaign messaging into a practice and a policy agenda moving forward. So there are a number of members of my transition team. If you're a part of the transition team, would you please stand? I know you're out there. Thank you very much for being here. Also, we have a number of neighborhood leaders, and I'm very grateful to the neighborhood leaders for the work that you do. That's actually how I got my start against my better judgment, actually. I was in my neighborhood driving through, and I thought that the medians in our neighborhood looked crummy, and so I went to a meeting and said, the medians look crummy, and they said, how about you be the president? So be careful what you bring up at the neighborhood meeting, amen? But I want to thank all the neighborhood leaders. If you're in one of our neighborhood leaders, I've seen many of you here. Could you please stand so we can recognize you and the great work that you do day in and day out for our community? Thank you. We also have a number of Unified Government staff members here today. If you're an employee of the Unified Government, can you stand and we can recognize you and thank you for your work? Thank you very much. Finally, I want to thank my staff. We have a wonderful team that has been working hard on this. Lindsay Begum has done yeoman's work in pulling this together, as well as Bill Hurlbrink, Jason Banks, Maria Rangel, and Maureen Mahoney have all been important parts of this team in putting this together today. And I think they're kind of outside and inside, but if there's any members of my team that are in, could you stand up and we can thank you for putting this together with the Rotary Club? Okay, finally, I want to thank my parents are here. Ron and Marcy Holland, Reverend Ron and Marcy Holland are here. Thank you for coming. I'll try not to embarrass you today with my talk. They hear me preach regularly, so they're kind of immune at this point. And of course, my kids aren't able to be here, but the love of my life, Julie, is here. And Julie, thank you for being here and for all your support. I couldn't do this without you. You want to stand up and we can thank you? So we have two special guests, and we're going to start this off by as I was thinking about my state of the government, I thought there's no way we can start off talking about where we're going without talking about a little bit about where we've been. And a lot about where we've been is because of some amazing leaders that have gone before me. And I've said multiple times that I stand on the shoulders of giants, that the city I inherited is in a lot better shape because of Joe Reardon's leadership, and the city he inherited was in a lot better shape because of Carol Marinovich's leadership. And the leadership that they provided to our city was also coupled with an outstanding and amazing administrator. Dennis Hayes has been with the city for 38 years, since I was 6 years old. But he's been the administrator for the last 17 years, and due to his leadership, and Joe and Carol, they have set an amazing standard for our city, and I just want to pay tribute. We're going to start with a little video clip for Dennis, and I'm going to ask Mayor Marinovich and Mayor Reardon to join me on the dais.
Hey, come on, where do you believe in me? Show you how simple life can be. Long lazy days in the sun, where it seems everyone has a smile when we meet. Under blue skies and emerald seas, warm winds and those coconut trees. They say your heart never leaves once you've been down to believe. Daylight, the sunlight chases the gray lights of lingering night. Down by the beach, a lone hare, and he keeps his eye on the fish in the tide. And I hear the boats of the fishermen go to the flats where the bonefishes run. And the folks of San Pedro walk out in the sand road and start their long day in the sun. Hey, come away to believe in me. I'll show you how simple life can be. Long lazy days in the sun, where it seems everyone has a smile when we meet. Under blue skies and emerald sea, warm winds in those coconut trees. Say your heart never leaves once you've been down to believe.
We may lose and we may win, but we will never be here again. So open up, I'm climbing in. So take it easy. Got a world of trouble on my mind. Looking for a lover who won't blow my cover. She's so hard to find. Take it easy. Take it easy. Don't let the sound of your own wheels make you crazy. Come on, baby. Don't say maybe. Save me. Oh, we got it easy. We ought to take it easy.
Thank you, Mayor Holland, for giving me the opportunity to say a few words. And Dennis, don't worry. I did really look through my remarks and went through them, so you don't have to worry about what I'm going to say this time. Sometimes he would worry in the past. But I didn't want to give you, Mayor Holland had asked me to come and say a few words about Dennis, and I didn't want to just stand up here and give you my very biased feelings about Dennis Hayes. So I asked a few people to describe in 1 or 2 words what they thought of when they heard the name Dennis Hayes. And here are some of the responses I received. Problem solver, calm, measured, thoughtful, meticulous, thorough, deliberate, kind, ethical, respectful, and I was told not to forget Mr. Rogers-like, in reference to his penchant for button-down cardigans. I had the opportunity of working with Dennis as a councilwoman and mayor, a total of 16 years. In fact, when I left office as mayor, I had spent more time with Dennis than my husband. And so occasionally I'd be at an event and call him Ernie by mistake. And he took that in stride and said, once again, we were kind of at the hip with one another on more than one occasion. So I feel like I'm saying goodbye to a husband almost. No offense, Denise, but I had him first. But I would have to agree with all the descriptors that were given to me about Dennis. When I was, shortly after I was elected mayor in 1995, the city administrator decided it might be a good opportunity for him to retire. And so I had the responsibility of recommending to the then city council who I would like to see take on the position as city administrator. And only one name came to mind to me, and I recommended Dennis. And with the unanimous decision of the governing body, everyone agreed Dennis was the right man for the right job at the right time. In 1997, with the approval of, by the voters for consolidation and my election as mayor CEO of the new unified government, I once again had the opportunity to recommend who would serve as the county administrator. In my mind, there was no need for a national search. We had the right person already. Once again, I had a unanimous vote of confidence for Dennis from the governing body. He had shown that in 5 months, with his methodical manner and excellent professionalism and always attending to every detail, he was able to consolidate the workings of 2 governments into one. Just think of that, in 5 months. And not that we didn't have anything else on our plate at the time. We were in competition with Kansas City, Missouri for a major motor speedway, working on both of those simultaneously. And nothing that an administrator likes more than the governing body running for election. All 6 of us were running for election at the same time. So needless to say, Dennis Hayes' plate was full, and he was able to wade through those bumpy waters very easily. You know, he knew that the government that had been voted on by the people of this community was also a government that was created by the people of this community. It was a bottom-up government, not a top-down, on what it would look like. He understood that, and he wanted to respond to that edict by the people of this wonderful city and county. So he is committed to this community that he has made his home for all these years. He's always viewed his position as not as county administrator or city administrator, but he's viewed his position as a public servant, and he did not take that lightly. With his ethical background, I remember the first contract with him. He wanted to make sure that the ethics clause was incorporated into his contract. That's the type of man Dennis Hayes is. I would just like to end by just telling you a very brief story of not only Dennis's commitment, but also how he always has the back of elected officials that he served. Tell them the story, Dennis, of Talladega. One Saturday morning, it was a wonderful morning. He's shaking his head. He knows what I'm going to talk about. I was driving around in the Armourdale area. Christmas in October had descended upon Armourdale to help fix up and repair homes there. thousands of volunteers, and I was driving around thanking the volunteers for coming to my community to help out. And I had a call on my car phone. It was Dennis. Well, no, first call I got was from Talladega. It was the head of Daytona International calling to let me know they had called Dennis Hayes, who had sent the deputy fire chief and the deputy police chief to Talladega to check out public safety. Because if we were going to gear up for races, our public safety officials had to see firsthand for themselves what to expect. Well, they went on to tell Dennis that both of them were in jail in Talladega for getting in a bar fight the night before. And the only way of getting the two of them out of jail was for me to call the mayor of Talladega. And they thought, oh, we better call the mayor right away because she's probably the first person Dennis would call. Sure enough, I hadn't hung up the phone immediately. It's Dennis. Mayor, we have a situation. Can you get to a hard line? He was afraid of someone overhearing the conversation on my car phone. I says, well, I'm close to Armadale Rec Center, so I'll call you from my hard line, Dennis. And so I pull up to Armadale Rec Center, and there's Bill Miller, one of the council person, and Don Denny, who is then our communications officer. I'm telling him what's happening. We're all laughing at Dennis's expense and thought, oh, very humorous. And so we thought, we're going to embellish it. So I called Dennis back, and I said, Dennis, what's going on? You said call you from a hard line. I just ran into Don Denny, and he's getting pages from every media in the Kansas City area. What has happened? He goes, I was afraid of that, Mayor. I'm the one who sent them. I'm going to take responsibility. And he told me what had happened about our deputy fire chief and deputy police chief in jail in Talladega for getting in a barroom fight. He says, but don't worry, Mayor, since I'm the one who sent them, I'll handle it. Get Denny on the phone. We have to prepare for a 1 o'clock press conference. And you don't have to be there because it wasn't your responsibility. It's all mine since I'm the one who picked them to go. And we are just laughing. I said, okay, Dennis. So Don Denny plays in with the joke, and we're laughing. And immediately then I called the folks at Daytona and said, please let him out of his misery. It is 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning. He's getting ready to get into a suit, missing his daughter's birthday. Can you please let him out of his misery? So shortly thereafter, I get a call. It's Dennis. Very funny, Mayor, but he wants to make his point for his next evaluation. But this shows I can take a joke, doesn't it? So, Dennis, thank you for being such a servant to this community. And our community has benefited greatly from that service and for being just a good man. Thank you.
Mayor Holland, thank you very much, not only for the opportunity this morning for Mayor Marinovich and I, but for this idea. It's absolutely phenomenal. I've been out of office for almost a year now, and 10 months. Mark knew it by heart. And as I reflected on a couple of words to say about Dennis today, the first thing I thought, honestly, was something I don't think 10 months ago I would have thought in the same way. But working with Dennis in City Hall as mayor and county administrator was absolutely fun. Some of the most fun times I've ever had in my entire life. And I say that because as you reflect back, and I've said this before, I really believe it, you know, I think cities generally have a story that's told about them. And there's a story about Kansas City, Kansas, and Wyandotte County, and not so long ago, that story would not be one that a lot of us in this room would want to tell. But the story today is totally different. The story today is about transformation. The story today is about moving from stagnation to growth. The story today is about a city on the move and a city that believes in itself. And none of those things could have been said not so long ago. And that didn't happen by accident. It happened because great people rose to the occasion at the right time. And Dennis Hayes was right at the center of that from the get-go. And Mayor Marinovich has done a great job of explaining all the qualities that Dennis has and what he brought to the table. But I can tell you, all all that I experienced as mayor and what led up to it happened because we had a county administrator that was not only a consummate professional, because at his core, that's what he is, and all of you that work with him know that. But he's also the one that has taken all that he's learned and everything that he knows and became unbelievably creative in his job, to the point that we were able to do things that no one would have ever predicted this community could have done. And that was in tandem with leadership that believed in what he was doing and that supported one another in moving that forward in the way that we did. That's an amazing thing. And, in the last 10 months, Mayor, I've been out and about. It's part of my job. I've traveled to a lot of cities that I've never been to before in my life. I've met with almost a dozen different mayors. And I can tell you, there are cities across this country that are trying to figure out how to do what we have done. They sort of sit there in amazement that a community like ours could have moved to a place that we have moved to. And as I reflect back on my tenure there, working with Dennis was just instrumental in making those things happen. And Dennis, I want to say congratulations to you. And again, I think we all appreciate the great public service that you've given to all of this community and your dedication. And we're prosperous because of your great work over your career in Kansas City, Kansas. Congratulations, Dennis. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Early on, I really wanted Dennis to stay, but there was a moment early in my time, within the first couple of weeks, that I realized maybe it was time for him to move on. Dennis, can you hold up your pager for us? Do you have your pager on you? He pulled out his pager in a public meeting, and I said, "Can you put that away before you embarrass the organization? We have moved forward with technology, so maybe it's time for the dinosaurs to go out to pasture." But what a privilege it has been. I feel like I've had a terrific in-service, not only in the last 10 months as mayor, but in the last 7 years on the commission. So thank you very much. But I thought how better and how more fitting than to begin the State of the Government with where we've been. And we couldn't have been in a stronger place than with these three leaders. Let's give them a hand again. Okay, so normally I'm really stressed about time because people aren't fed in the normal group that I talk to, and there's always a rumbling to beat the Baptist to the buffet. But since you've eaten, I feel like we got plenty of time. I promise to get you out by kickoff. So I have a couple things. With the campaign and with the transition team, I've been able to consolidate a lot of the ideas into three primary priorities. And I'm going to talk briefly about each one of those today: economic development, civic innovation, and healthy communities Wyandotte. These are things that I heard repeatedly on the campaign trail, and I've heard repeatedly from citizens, and are values that I believe are things that our commission supports and are in keeping with the larger vision of our city. So I want to walk through several of these right now. Right now, the state of the unified government is very strong. We had over nearly $1 billion, a billion, that's with a B, in capital investment in 2013. Most of that was done under Joe Reardon's term, but he's not mayor anymore, so I'm going to take credit for it. But $1 billion in capital investment. And some of the great things that have happened have been multifamily housing, industrial, and manufacturing. We have built the first market rate apartments in Wyandotte County in 30 years. And these apartments are first class, and they're all over. They're in the western part of our community. They're downtown at 9th and State in the Horace Mann Lofts, and they're at the new St. Margaret's Hospital that has been rehabilitated. These are high-quality living places right in our downtown and around our city that are a fantastic opportunity for people to move and live here. Also, we're having a renaissance with manufacturing nationwide. We're at the beginning of that. General Motors plant has really been the hub. General Motors has invested nearly $2 billion in their Fairfax plant over the last decade. That investment has begotten more investment. Most recently, their $600 million paint shop that's going in adjacent to them. But we're also seeing manufacturing move in from all over the country and, frankly, the world to service this General Motors plant. And their 3,000 employees with high-paying jobs are the quality of manufacturing that we're hoping to continue to attract and retain here in Kansas City, Kansas. The PQ Corporation also is another corporation that most people don't recognize. That it's at 18th Street and I-70, and it's investing millions of dollars in chemical production right here in Wyandotte County, and they're growing and expanding as we speak. The big part, though, as I talked about economic development, was making sure that we connected our citizens to the jobs. It's great for all the new jobs that have come in with Cerner, the casino. KU Medical continues to build out with their cancer center, and General Motors and others. When we think about it, in the last 5 years, we have had nearly 10,000 new jobs come to Wyandotte County. The key to that, excuse me, I did Cerner twice because there's 2 towers. It's 2,000 and 2,000. So about 6,000 new jobs that have come to our community in the last 5 years. What's imperative, though, is that we make sure that we connect our citizens to those jobs. If our citizens are not ready to take those jobs, those high-paying jobs, then we don't get the full economic benefit of bringing companies to our community. To that end, the MAMTech, which is a state and federal partnership that we're working with, and Commissioner Philbrook has been working on this as well, is an opportunity to bring a high level of training for manufacturing. So as manufacturing companies come, the first thing they ask is, do you have a trained workforce? We want to make sure that we have that trained workforce, and this is a great opportunity. Also, our unified government workforce. I expect our unified government workforce to lead the way in hiring. And there was a recent, and I've shared this before, but there was a recent incident, it was a recent circumstance that just brought the awareness to me and to several of the commissioners that we have a lot of work to do, even as an organization for the unified government. We're sitting, the fire department had just done a great job of hiring tremendously qualified, high caliber individuals. They offered jobs to 42. And we were at the graduation ceremony. And as these very qualified young men walked across the stage, afterwards, several commissioners came up to me and said, what's happened with the recruiting and hiring? So I began to dig into it. The trouble that we had is for the 42 very qualified individuals that were hired, there were no African Americans that were hired. And there were no women that were hired. And this is a group that represents 10% of the workforce on that department. And it didn't reflect our community. And so I started asking more questions, and as we looked into it, I checked with HR. We have some great partners. I talked to the fire chief. Chief Jones has been very supportive in this effort and very interested in making sure that we can lead the way in our community. But as I looked into it, the other challenge that we saw was that of the 42 individuals, 75% came from high schools outside of Wyandotte County. And I thought, if we're going to ask Cerner and we're going to ask General Motors and KU to hire our community citizens, we need to make sure that we as a unified government are leading the way. And when we incentivize companies to hire local minority and women in the contracting and in the construction of their projects, and we're not leading the way in hiring, I have a concern about that. And it's a concern not simply the fire department perhaps just triggered the notion to look into it, but there's a concern, I think, across many of our departments in the unified government. And we need to take this opportunity to look more deeply into it. As I've reached out, I know Chief Jones has already reached out to the community college, and the community college is a great partner in the training of our public safety personnel. Have already talked to them about possibilities of how we can move forward, because I don't think there are any hiring issues. I think the issue is with our recruiting. When you have jobs on the fire department that start at $50,000, that's half again the median household income of our community. People should be clamoring for these jobs. Why aren't our young people excited about getting on these departments with these high-paying jobs? We need to begin very early. As I reached out to Dr. Lane at District 500, she told me about an exciting program that I want to partner with in our community. She talked about the Diploma Plus program. And the Diploma Plus program is a program where every child will graduate from high school with a diploma plus either 30 hours of college credit that they will earn concurrently during their high school time, or with a professional certificate that allows them to go out and get a job immediately after high school, or if they would like to use that high-paying job to put them through college. The Diploma Plus program is a great opportunity for us to partner in the community, not just with District 500, but with all of our districts to move this forward. That possibility also of having, as a part of that Diploma Plus program, a public safety academy that would help to train our men and women, our young men and women, about the public sector careers that we have that are great jobs and great opportunities to serve our community. I want the unified government of Wyandotte County to lead the way in hiring and retaining our residents to make sure they have a career where they can raise our family. That's the kind of economic development that I believe we can impact in the short run. And I want to thank our public safety for partnering with me in this great effort. After economic development, I want to talk about civic innovation. Innovation is a buzzword that's being passed around throughout the community, and there's really two levels to it. One is external, and the innovation that we have with our startup village, Google Fiber, the tech industry that is really going for all the success we've had in Wyandotte County with manufacturing and commercial, residential, all of the great, and retail, all these great sectors. We've not done as well with the new component of technology. That external innovation is very important. So I know we have some folks from Startup Village here today. We appreciate the work that you're doing, and we want to continue to move that forward for innovation as we diversify our workforce. Another piece about innovation, though, is more internal, and it's about open data. And you may have heard this buzzword, open data, a lot. But open data, which I'm very excited about, the commission has suffered me talking about it at almost every meeting. I've been able to work in the phrase open data, which is a goal of mine. But open data is really about having all the information in our unified government available at our fingertips, not only for us internally, but also for the public. The open data really comes out of the Freedom of Information Act rules. And the idea is if something is eligible for a Freedom of Information Act, if it's eligible to be disclosed, it's not personnel records or something, then it's already public and we should push it out. We shouldn't wait for people to ask for it. We should just push that data out. And the benefit of pushing our data out is that people can use it, but the other benefit is we can use our own data. And the goal of using our own data is that we can make data-driven decisions. And this is going to be very important as we move forward. It also speaks to a greater transparency. We've made a commitment, this commission has made a commitment since July 1 that every commission meeting would be on television. Every single commission meeting will be on television. It's been in July. And then it's also recorded and put on our website. If you ever have trouble sleeping any night, you can go to the UG website and you can watch the public officials discuss all number of exciting issues, yes? But that level of transparency is critically important for us moving forward. I also want to say innovation is going to be our ticket to move through the most challenging issues that our community has. And I would say we've had so much success in our community and so many things going well, and I want to do more. And one of the big things that I've heard consistently on the campaign trail and from citizens for so many years, we've got to lower our taxes. We have to have tax reduction. Our mill levy is too high. It's the highest in the region, and that has to be a top priority. This commission takes that very seriously, and this commission has done more in the last, I would say, 10 months to push forward an innovative look at how we do our budgeting so that we can get to the heart of this. In 2017, the STAR bonds for the Legends are going to pay off. That's going to bring us approximately $12 million in new revenue. What could we do with $12 million? Well, in a $293 million budget, you can do something. And the issues that we have, obviously we need to address employee compensation. Our employees have been held stagnant on pay for too long. We need to restore our fund balances. We need to continue to invest in our infrastructure. There are so many things that we need to do. How do you balance it? This commission came back in October to a strategic plan and started putting together a strategic plan. And the first thing they said is we've got to improve our budgeting process because we start in June and we end in 4 to 6 weeks. And it's not enough time to make the detailed decisions that we need to make to prioritize how we're going to reach all of our goals in a balanced and healthy way. So this last October, the commission unanimously adopted a new budget calendar that started the whole process 6 months early, to the delight of the administration. Did I hear an amen? Anywhere? Anywhere? Nobody? Nobody? To start the process 6 months early, to give the public hearing. So many times we have a public hearing and it's too late in the process to really consider those topics the way we wanted to take them. We bumped it all back. We had our first public hearing in February, and we're moving into a retreat in 2 weeks on March 8th to look at our priorities as we've heard from different departments. But one of the things that this commission has done, it took a first look in October at the trajectories of our spending. And as you know, this is the diagram that's in every city. Revenues are like this if you're lucky, In a lot of places, they're like this. But we had a 20% reduction in our overall evaluation through the recession, but not for the Village West. Village West now represents 10% of the total valuation in our community. And so because of that bump, we only lost 10% instead of a full 20. So the Village West development is benefiting us already, and we have an opportunity for it to benefit us more. The problem is, though, our spending trajectories are like this, and our revenues are like this. It kind of makes an alligator. And if you project it out, if we don't address the spending, we're not going to be able to reach our other goals. We're not going to be able to reduce taxes. We're not going to be able to give the cost of living increase to our employees that they deserve. We're not going to be able to invest in our infrastructure. The reality is, if we don't change our trajectory on our spending now, the $12 million could be spent before we get to 2017. And that's an urgency that this commission understands, and this commission has been more proactive in dealing with this than I've ever seen. And I want to thank the group at this table for all of your hard work, because it has been a challenge, and we just know the challenge is still coming. But I want you to look at some of the issues that we've had with our spending. It's just a few spending slides, so don't yawn or anything. Just stay with me. Okay. And it's not great news, but we have a plan, so don't get depressed or anything. It's going to be fine. So combined general fund balance, this looks bad, 81% decline in general fund balance. That's bad. Can anyone see where the recession hit? See if you can see when the recession hit on that graph. All right. I told Joe Reardon. Joe Reardon had the worst job ever. He runs for mayor, and then he navigates 5 of his 8 years through the recession. That's wrong. 5 of his 8 years. But this is what happened to our fund balance. And one of the things that we take great pride in, is we didn't lay anyone off through this time. We were able to do cutbacks and freezing hires. Great leadership during this time made sure that we didn't, because our employees aren't just our employees are our residents, and we did not want to create more of an economic crisis in our own community by taking away jobs. So we have done a great job, but the dilemma is, how do we restore this fund balance? And then we have all of our non-public safety departments. We've been able to hold the line. From 2006 until last year, all of our other departments combined accounted for only a 1.3% increase. When you think of the increases in healthcare, you think of the dramatic increases we've had in cost of doing business. To be able to hold the line on all other departments has been terrific. Now then, in terms of public safety, we have the best public safety in the region, and I would put our public safety second to none of anyone in the nation. Our fire response is the best in the region. The Kansas City Star ranks us #1 repeatedly in our quality of response, both our ambulance and our fire response. Our police have done an outstanding job, very innovative, leading innovation in terms of their CompStat and the way they're targeting crime, the way that they're moving. Our police department has reduced crime in our community to a 40-year low. That wouldn't have been possible without the best men and women in blue that you can imagine. We've done an outstanding job. And our sheriff's department, we have some people who need to be in jail. And because they're in jail, they're not out causing more crimes. We also have a dilemma that's well known in our nation, that the United States decided a long time ago to close mental health hospitals and didn't have Plan B. And so 40% of the residents of our jail are on psychotropic meds. They need treatment. Many of them are in there and need to be in there because they've committed violent crimes. Some of them, and the vast majority of them, frankly, are in there for very mild crimes, and we're spending $100 a day to warehouse them, and they're not getting the treatment they need. And in part because of that, we've also locked up our juveniles in a prison that's designed for adult offenders. We need a juvenile facility that can help treat and transform our young people instead of locking them up in a maximum security prison. We also have a whole group of prisoners that you might call catch and release. I don't know if that's a legal term, Sheriff, but I call them catch and release. But these are folks that are going to spend a night or two in jail for a variety of misdemeanor crimes. We end up having to farm those folks out at great expense to our community to help pay for jails being built in other communities around. Our jail population is high. It's too high. The sheriff has brought some very innovative ways of reducing that overall, but the need for innovation continues. The challenge we have with our public safety, the greatest strength we have is our public safety. The greatest challenge we have is our public safety, because my concern, and I expect your concern as well, the greatest threat to our public safety is if it's not sustainable over time. And if we run out of money for public safety, then cuts are going to be made that are poorly thought out and are not going to work long term. I want to make sure that we address public safety to protect the men and women who are in uniform and to protect our citizens. We need innovation to think through how we can improve public safety, because I want to show you some numbers that will speak to the need to think outside the box in terms of how we address it. All other departments, a 1.3% increase since 2006. All of this is from 2006 to last year. The police department has increased 14.7% in that same time period. Fire has increased 33.9% in that same time period. The sheriff has increased 54.7% in that same time period. When we've managed to hold all other departments to a 1 or 2% increase overall, in large part, we've had a very difficult time containing the cost of our public safety that is a number one priority of our community, a number one priority of this commission, a number one priority of mine. But if we don't have sustainable numbers moving forward, there's not going to be any way to cut our taxes with these numbers moving forward. If you project this into the future, we have an unsustainable model. And I believe that with innovation and different thinking and the partnership, we can transform this model together. The other way we've done it is our civilian persons are down 22%. We've taxed every one of our other departments, and we have some skeleton crews in other departments, while our sworn strength has gone up almost 10%. You can see the dramatic change that has happened since 2006 in terms of public safety. I want to give an analogy of this because I believe this is the way we're going to move forward. The commission has already voted unanimously for a full-fledged fire study to analyze every aspect of our fire operations, top to bottom. The command staff's on board with that. We're looking for a great partnership with the union in that. That comprehensive review of our fire department is going to give us an opportunity to benchmark the way we're fighting fires with the way that communities across the country are doing it, and finding ways of efficiencies and other things that do not compromise the safety of anyone. We've also just read in the Kansas City Star on Monday, and it's been a discussion that the Council of Mayors has been talking about for a long time, and that's the increased dangers that our communities face. Unfortunately, the fire department's job is not getting easier. You may have read about the new transport of oil on rail cars that's coming across communities. This needs to be a top concern of ours. We are the second largest rail hub in the United States, second only to Chicago. And the transport of hazardous materials through our community makes it more dangerous for our community and for our people who will respond to those issues. We need to make sure we have people ready to respond in a safe and efficient manner. And if we're going to do that, we're going to have to think about how we're doing our funding long term. We also, one of the things that the sheriff and the jail population committee just brought to the commission recently was a request to do the similar comprehensive study for the sheriff's department and for our whole jail population group and all the groups that feed that. That group wants to do the same look at how we can benchmark nationally. Can we look at building a juvenile facility or a minimum security facility that will allow us to bring our farm outs back, lower our costs, and allow us to be successful in a sustainable way moving forward. I think it's also time we need to do that same study with the police department to make sure that we're doing the most cutting-edge things to contain costs without compromising safety. The analogy I want to use is when you remember the recession and you remember General Motors. General Motors was going through bankruptcy, and I can tell you, with General Motors being our largest taxpayer in the city, the risk of losing that plant in Kansas City, Kansas, was something that none of us wanted to think about. And I credit Joe Reardon for his leadership in making sure that we were working with General Motors. He and Dennis reached out to General Motors. They were, even during the recession, investing in our plant, which was a good sign. We figured the more money they invested in our plant, the more likely they were going to stay. And so even during the recession, while it was tense times, reaching out with that leadership to make sure they stayed. But here's the thing that happened nationally that made this work, and I believe this is a model that's going to work for us as we look at containing costs at the unified government. That recession created an unprecedented dialogue and partnership between the United Auto Workers and the General Motors management. They came together and said, you know what? If our organization isn't healthy, the whole thing goes under. And the UAW and GM got together and created a cutting-edge partnership of talking through how can we make this business sustainable long-term. And they did it. They found an economic model that worked both for the working people and it worked for the management. And you know what? They didn't do it by compromising and started building crappy cars. They're still building the best cars in the world. They didn't do it by compromising the safety of their employees. They still have the top safety in their industry. They didn't do it by compromising pay. They're still some of the highest paying jobs in our community. There is a way to maintain quality, and there's a way to do this with a partnership that I believe will move us forward as a community. But it is our greatest challenge. And for all the success that we've had, you need to know our greatest challenge is going to be to move this sustainable. And we have a retreat on March 8th, and I think we're going to resolve all this March 8th, yes? They said yes, they're on board. Thinking. Okay, I'm going to talk about something fun. Not that that wasn't fun, yes? Healthy Communities Wyandotte in 2009, and I'm going to wrap up with this, and then we're going to close out. Healthy Communities Wyandotte in 2009, the Kansas Health Institute ranked Wyandotte County 105th out of 105 counties. Joe Reardon and myself and two other commissioners immediately began a task force of talking to all the stakeholders in the community about the issues. The Kansas Health Institute used about 43 different criteria to determine overall healthiness. The number one correlate will not surprise you. The overall correlate was poverty. Communities that were poor ranked lower, communities that were wealthy ranked high. So if we were last in the state in overall healthiness, who was number one? Johnson County, that's right, our neighbor. So we decided that we needed to not pretend it wasn't happening, but we needed to take charge. Healthy Communities Wyandotte was born and has 5 components to it. And if you're not currently involved in Wyandotte County, I want to offer each of you an opportunity to get involved in this because this has an opportunity to make a huge difference in our community. One of the work areas is communication. If you do communications, we'd love to have your help in this area to get the word out about healthy living. Another is about education, and Dr. Ray Daniels is spearheading this effort. It involves all of the educational groups, our Donnelly College, the community college, all the school districts, working together to make sure that we're teaching kids about healthy living and healthy options. It also addresses access to health care. This access to health care is big. Wyandotte County has 5% of the total population of the state of Kansas, and we have 10% of the uninsured. The Affordable Care Act actually will cut those numbers in half. But the other half can be cut if our state would expand Medicaid. And the failure to expand Medicaid is one of the biggest issues that's facing us right now. In terms of enrollment for Affordable Care Act, my office through Healthy Communities and through the Health Department has hired a full-time enroller to go door to door to get people enrolled, people who qualify for the Affordable Care Act, to get them insured, because not being insured was one of the major reasons that we were last. The expansion of Medicaid would cut those numbers in half again. And the expansion of Medicaid would impact the poorest of the poor in our community and give them an opportunity for overall health. And it would help our hospitals. KU Med will lose $26 million next year because the federal government has restructured how they reimburse hospitals. They no longer do it the way they used to. They now do it through the expansion of Medicaid. Without the expansion of Medicaid in Kansas, KU will lose $26 million. That $26 million is going to come out of their quality of care for all of us. We've already bulldozed one hospital in Wyandotte County because we could not afford to pay for uninsured people to go there. Bethany Hospital is gone. Since I was born there, I did rescue a brick out of the pile, and I have it in my office. We cannot bulldoze any more hospitals because of a policy decision not to expand. I want to tell you one story. Wyandotte County is the highest in the state for diagnosis of stage 4 cancer. The highest in the state for diagnosis of stage 4 cancer. Why is that? Because there's no screening going on for people who aren't insured to find out before there's a lump. And when there is a lump, if it's not painful at stage 2, they're not getting treatment. And at stage 3, it just doesn't hurt enough when you're thinking about how to put food on your table or whether or not you're going to go to the doctor. By the time someone goes to the doctor for cancer, they find out it's already at stage 4. They've probably been taken to the hospital by ambulance, where they are given the news that they're going to die. Friends, we have an uninsured crisis in this country. Our country has responded, and Medicaid has been expanded in California, in New York, but not in Kansas. And we deserve the same quality of care that everyone else has. These federal dollars are no different than the federal transportation dollars, the federal education dollars, the federal agricultural dollars that the state of Kansas is receiving every single year. These are the health care dollars that benefit our health care infrastructure, and they benefit our people. And I want everyone in this room to advocate to your legislature and to the governor to ask them for the good of Kansas, both economically and morally, to expand Medicaid so our people have an opportunity to have the same quality of care that the rich have. It's time, it's nationwide, and I refuse for the people of Wyandotte County to be left behind. We also have a program for access to healthy foods. In the last 6 years, we've opened 5 new grocery stores in Wyandotte County. These grocery stores are filling in food deserts, and they're great capital investment. And people are, it turns out, we did a study, it turns out people in Wyandotte County buy groceries. It turns out they don't buy them here. We need high-quality grocery stores, and we've already built 5, very proud of that, and we are looking to build another one downtown. We also have healthy infrastructure, which works on community centers and other things. So this is my most exciting part. I can't wait. So we are looking at building a healthy campus downtown. And I will tell this story to anyone who will sit still long enough to listen to it, and since you're sitting still for now, I will tell you about it. Downtown, the downtown YMCA at 8th Street, just 100-year-old building. It's time to move out. It's outdated. It cannot be restored as a YMCA. It could be something else interesting, but not a Y. They vetted 5 different sites in downtown KCK as to where to build. They picked a site at 10th and State at Big 11 Lake. And if you're not familiar with Big 11 Lake, it is clearly the 11 is big because the lake is not. But Big 11 Lake, they said that we could build a community center here that would be successful and financially viable. We, in an unrelated story, Associated Wholesale Grocers, we asked them to do a study of where a grocery store could be successful. They picked 10th and State and said, this is a place near Big 11 Lake that we believe a grocery store could be sustainable. As I was looking at this last summer, I thought, you know what, we have the beginnings of a healthy campus. The commission took a bold leadership step this summer in the midst of a very difficult budget and pledged $6 million from casino revenues to go towards the downtown community center that would be run by the YMCA. That $6 million is a major commitment to our downtown. The people downtown deserve to have something they can see, touch, and feel from the development out west. And this community center is going to be a great asset for our community. It's going to provide opportunities for seniors. It's going to provide opportunities for our youth. This community center is important. And we're putting together an unprecedented coalition to help build and operate this center. Obviously, the Y is helping out. LISC is helping out. The Kansas City, Kansas Public Schools, the KU Medical Center is looking at this, the School for the Blind, which is right across the street, Robert Wood Johnson Center. We'd love to involve the community college. We have the Archdiocese, and we also have the Housing Authority. One of the things that's needed in our community is we don't have a tournament pool where where the swim teams can swim. I don't know how long it's been since Kansas City, Kansas has hosted a swim meet, but if we could build a tournament swim natatorium on this site that both District 500 and that the Catholic schools could use, we would have a sustainable model that would allow not only for that tournament for our schools, but also an even broader vision to teach every child how to swim. The number 2 cause of death among urban children is drowning, largely because of the lack of opportunities to learn how to swim. And if you look at across our community, we fit that profile, do we not? We just don't have the opportunities for kids. This community center can be a big win. This healthy campus would represent, just those 2 components alone, would represent a $30 million capital investment in downtown. It would also, as I presented this to the Reach Healthcare Foundation, the Greater Kansas City Health Foundation, and LISC, they all offered without asking to contribute $80,000 for a master plan to take the downtown master plan into an implementation phase to not only look at this, but other businesses that could go downtown, and also for some housing options and additional green space. There's a great opportunity to grow our downtown. I believe downtown is everyone's downtown, and we need to be focused on rebuilding it for the good of everyone. This healthy campus is a great step forward. All right, before they bring out the hook, we're going to have some fun. Kansas City, Kansas T-Bones are here to stay. Very excited about the T-Bones. Let's give them a hand. I also want to say this was the most, I am so proud of our commission. I said it during the meetings. This was a super hard policy decision. We were not unanimous on this. This was a hard policy decision. Does the local government buy a stadium, yes or no? And it took months, but I will say the process was good. I thought the conversation was respectful. And at the end of the day, we're a little divided on it, but the conversation was so respectful, I thought it set the standard for other issues moving forward. So I just want to thank the commission for this difficult thing. And of course, I was in favor of it, so I'm really excited we got the T-Bones. We also have Verrückt coming. You have a little doohickey here. I don't know how to spell doohickey, but you have a little thing, a little foam, Verrückt. Verrückt means insane in German. And if you have driven by Schlitterbahn, show of hands, how many are going down a 17-story water slide? 60 miles an hour. All right. It's not for the faint of heart. Julie said that I can go down, but her children are not. I don't know what she means by that. Also, Sporting Kansas City. Let's give Sporting Kansas City a hand. We have here the Eastern Conference Trophy because the MLS Trophy is on tour around the country, and I talked to Neil Patterson. He said, I can't even get it on my calendar. So we have the Eastern Conference Trophy. They won it all. It is the first major league championship in the history of the state of Kansas right here in KCK. I want to thank everyone for coming. Have a great day.